Welcome, guys. Welcome to the final panel of the day. We're closing this event with a topic that's as real as it gets. It's about money, funding, investment, and pitching, so the hard stuff. Because let's be honest, even the most brilliant game idea won't go far without the right support, and that starts with the perfect pitch. But spoiler alert, also, investors are not only looking for good ideas, they're looking for strategy, for market understanding, for vision, and yes, someone who delivers all of that in a clear, convincing way. So today, we bring you the perfect mix, practical advice and an empowering perspective, hopefully. That's especially important if we look at the numbers. So if you're still concentrated, please stay with me. I'm going to present to you a couple of numbers. So in 2023, startups founded by women received only 1.8% of all venture capital funding in Europe. That's a very sad statistic that mirrors the 2% figure in the US. This isn't just about fairness, it's about missed potentials, because here's one more number. So mixed gender founding teams deliver up to 35% higher return on investment. So what are we waiting for? Let's break this 2% ceiling, right? Okay. I'm lucky to be joined by three brilliant women helping us do exactly that, to break the ceiling. So please welcome here to the stage. Astrid Refstrup is part of the team at Wings, where she supports studios led by women and gender minorities. She's the former CEO of Triple Topping Games and brings experience from all sides of the industry, from studio life to investor relations. Applause, please. Marina Diaz is a game designer, a director, both in game and film, which I love, my two favorite topics. She is now also joining the early stage investments. Marina brings creative vision, business smarts, and activism together, and is passionate about emotional game design and inclusive innovation. An applause, please. And we're also super happy that Bibi Wigman is with us. She is the founder of PlayCap, a global investment network of women in games. She's also head of publishing at Aurora Punks and combines industry insight with strategic funding expertise. Welcome. Yeah, before we get into the nitty-gritty of pitching, I'd like to zoom out for a moment. So you heard the number. So given that women-led startups receive just 1.8% of venture capital funding in Europe, how does that statistic make you personally feel? And how is it even possible to still have the guts to found as a woman? Astrid, I would like to start with you.
Oh yeah.
the hard question.
This is a really hard question because it's also focusing on obstacles only. And I think it's a reason why PlayCap and Wings exist, right? Like we wanna change those 2%. The reason why it is like that is because we are a product of a society, and I think when we talk about investments in the games industry, we need to remember the context of society in general, which is by far most like a patriarchal key construction. And if we talk about investment in games and we are trying to solve it here, it can sometimes feel very uphill because actually we are just battling a way bigger structure than what the games industry is. With that said, I think since I started my early days in the games industry, and there are still issues today, I'm not undermining that at all, but just the fact that we have these conversations. When I founded my studio, there was no way that I could go on a stage and say women doesn't receive investment. Like, it was simply not an argument and a conversation to be had. And I think now at least it's a conversation. My last note on this, the note, is also that I forgot it. It's very late. It's very important. No, but when we talk about that it's so few women that receives funding, it also speaks into the biases we have, and it goes a little bit back to what I said before. And I think that is what we need to break down as well. And we do that by actually allowing real capital to be invested into studios led by women or gender marginalized developers or any minorities in the industry in general. And I think that is like, if we just do mentorships and small things, it's going to move a little bit. But the real thing that's going to move it is like real capital behind it. And I think that's why equity for ClayCap and project financing from Wings are really good options.
Marina, what does this number do to you?
Well, like, first of all, I'm super honored to be here with Astrid and Vivi because I'm a baby venture capitalist and they both have a lot of experience. So I'm very honored to be here. But I think like what I second 100% what Astrid was just saying. And I also I think like there's mostly women and, non-white men people here. And I want to ask a simple question. How many of you know about investment, for example?
3, 4, 5.
5 people.
7.
So, and me also, like when I started educating myself in finance and venture capitalism and like venture funding and so on, I never thought that this was something I should do. Like it didn't come to my mind. Like personally in my day-to-day, I also thought that I was bad at money because I love shopping. So I thought I'm really bad at money and that's it, But there is a reason. There is like a psychology behind why are we good or bad at money. And also traditionally, for women are told to, for example, save, while men are told to invest. But what do you think is an investor here? Like most of the people, or even my parents, they thought that an investor is, first of all, a rich person, and also a man, right, like with a suit, whatever. Like I think that's kind of like the common image that we all have of what an investor is. So me, 160 meters woman, white from Spain, I never thought I can also be an investor. It sounds like a rich people, right? But the thing is that everyone can start investing. You don't need to be rich or anything. Like in my case, I started investing like 100 euros per month, which was what I was able to invest at the time. And I started educating myself in finance. And okay, if I don't understand this, how it works, and now I go to your question. If you don't know about finance, if you don't know what venture funding is, if you don't know what venture capital is, how are you going to apply for that? So I think for many women, for many people that are not white men in the games industry, they don't even think it's an option for them. Because what we have in our minds, and I've been also in that side of the game because I used to have my indie studio as well, that didn't work. I never thought in my head that I could actually go for venture funding, for example, because I didn't know anything about it. And for me, in my head, it was just publishers or public grants. Like when you're from Spain, it's almost not an option. Or just like Kickstarter and so on and so on. So I think that's also one of the reasons why the number is so low.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Bibi? What's your take on that low number?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I agree with both these amazing women. I recently had a talk on Indigo last week where I had a presentation about PlayCap, and I asked Midjourney to make an image for me what a game investor looks like. And it was definitely not a woman that was on there. And I think that is why I started PlayCap, is because I want to change the structural behind, change the image of what an game investor is, because it is very male dominated, of course, and we need to change that image. And like you say, it's I started PlayCap and we were about 40 women last year, and now we are about 200 women.
Wow.
So it's very obvious that women do want to do investments, but almost all of them that hasn't done investments before, they say like, I don't know how to do it. That's why I don't do it. And the problem is also that women don't talk about investments. Men talk about investments, but we never talk about investments. And that's why I think forming this kind of network where we can share, because some of the women in PlayCap has done investments with the women that has not done investments, and provide that kind of like place to share the experiences of doing investments and learning how to do it is super important. And that's the first baby step for taking over the world, I think. And yeah, I mean, the numbers are terrible, and I hope this is going to change.
Yeah, let's be part of it to change it, right? Okay, let's talk about it. Yeah.
One more small point on that, I think is very, so we want women to invest. So normally what is an angel investor in the games industry is a man that exited his company, because men have access to get startup funding, they have access to get Series A seed funding, Series A funding, go the whole route, build a big company, do an exit. And then they don't want to start a new thing maybe, and then they become angel investors. But when women don't have access, or gender marginalized people don't have access to this startup capital in the beginning, the chances of them exiting a studio and actually have this, like, one thing is investing, which is what you should do, like 100 euros, 200 euros, 50 euros, do smart with your savings, right? Another thing is actually having that capital where you are ready to play with 100K US dollars, 200K, 500K in angel investment. And if you want to create like these angel networks, like we need women to also exit studios and make like real big money to do that. So it's like, it's all of us here on this little scene, like we have to work together, because there needs to be these like different stages in financing to have these women becoming so super rich that they can just go around and play with money like men have been able to do for centuries.
I want to go deeper into our topic for today, so the pitching. So before you get the investment, it all starts with the pitching. So Astrid, at Wings, you focus on underrepresented founders. What makes a pitch stand out for you in that context?
It's actually not in that context, I think. I think it depends on who you are pitching to. So Wings, we do project financing. So there, like, I always care about what studio we're building as well, because we want to find great founders that can solve problems and have a strong organization and all of that before we invest our money into a project. But when you're investing for pitching for project financing, and it's self-publishing as with Wings, then you need to do a go-to-market strategy, and you need to include things about like how you're actually gonna make money on this thing. If you're pitching a publisher for project financing, but for them to do the publishing side of it, that part of the pitch deck can maybe be a little bit less focused. If you're pitching for equity, then it's a very different route, because if you are going to have investment from BB's teams over here, like how are they going to make their money back? That's a long-term investment where they're going to be waiting for somebody else to buy shares in that studio, and you need to be aware of and ready to scale and do the whole like venture capital route actually, and do an exit one day. So there you need to think about the long journey of the studio. And that is what you first of all need to think about when you are pitching. That when you pitch me, like I'm gonna be quick invest in your project. 2 years maybe is 2 or 3 years is most far. In Carlo Nights when I was there, it was like it's up to 5 years, but like that's pretty quick turnaround on my investment. If it's an equity pitch, like you need a 5-year and a 10-year plan, and you also need to say like who is it that's gonna acquire my studio one day, that's gonna make you as an early stage investor and me very rich. So it's 2 very different pitches that you are creating. Of course, you still need a good game and a nice demo and all of those things. And I don't know how you do it for you. Like you also invest in people that are not women. But for Wings, as soon as we have verified that the team is fitting our criteria of diversity, we don't think about that anymore. So still, the pitch deck you are creating for Wings is exactly like if you were pitching any of the other project financing fund out there, which is like still Cardo Outer Slot as well. I think Critical Reflex does it a little bit. Nocturne is not there anymore, but there's like a few of them around. So it's the same kind of pitch deck, basically. Yeah.
Bibi, you just said it. So you work with an investment network made up entirely of women, 200. So how does that change the way you approach funding?
Well, I don't think changed from the difference between us and male-led networks.
Yes. That's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, I don't think there is any difference there. I think we have another way of possibly approaching the founders. I think a lot of people that has been in situations where they met investors, that it's, and I think very often also for women the experience has been that they have felt really on the spot, and a lot of them talk about that they feel like a little bit hostile, that they're asking about the problems in the company. They have another way of approaching these women compared to if they would have been men behind the company. So I think that's something we want to show, that we can actually have a nice conversation and we can get the same result when founders pitch to us. That they're not going to leave the room and feel like, oh my God, this was horrible. we want to do it the women way, and do it in a good way and a nice way, and so I think that's a big difference. But now I'm generalizing, so not every VC is that bad. But it's a lot of people who talk about that they had really bad experiences in these meetings with VCs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Marina, you're part of the VC world now. What's something you wish the founders would understand more about the investors? Like the other way around?
I think, like, in which way? Like, to get to know how the investors are, or like...
Yeah, you just said it also in your intro. There's always this image of, or an investor is this rich man with a suit, but you prove them wrong, like literally.
I think as I said earlier, I think it's very important to start oneself educating in how this world works, because you cannot conquer what you don't know, right? And then basically, I think, as an ex-indie studio founder, and maybe in the future I will found again an indie studio, I think it's vital, and I think we don't do it. It is to educate ourselves in how business works. Like, most of the people that have an indie studio don't know how business work at all. I also don't come from this world, so you need to do the work first. So like, what they need to know about investors is, like, first of all, that investors can look in many different ways, but that's also a societal image that, we all need to start changing. It's not just like from one person's perspective, but also like that there is an option that is investment. And then to basically, I think it's just a matter of diving deep into that world and like discover what it is, like what is, like, for example, Astrid was talking about equity or like long-term investment. And I think most of the developers that are applying for funding don't know anything about it, like what all of that means. So I think, I don't know, like, I repeat this a lot of time, but I think the first step is education on it. And that sometimes I think, especially for, I don't know if women, like people that are not men, I think it's hard to really think about options because you don't have the knowledge. So first we need to get the knowledge to have the options. So I think that's why what I would love people to know more about, like investors, investments, that once they have the same vocabulary as well. Like I love speaking different languages, and I think that I've learned in my career and with this is that you need to learn to speak different languages. And I think that's also close to what Astrid was saying of depending on what you're pitching to, you have a different approach, right? So with this is the same. And you need to kind of start learning the language of investment and business in order to be at the same level in the game.
Yeah. Astrid, what's your advice for founders who feel intimidated by money talk or these finance slides?
Don't be intimidated. Actually, so I was 4 years with Carlo Knights, and there it was like women and men and all sort of people pitching us because Carlo Knights do project financing in all kind of studios, right? And then I started at Wings last year, and suddenly all the pitches I received, of course, there's always like some white dude from Sweden that's like, oh, but my mom is female. We have a few of those every week. But suddenly I'm only reviewing and doing due diligence on games and pitches made by female and gender marginalized founders. And what I've learned is that they know what they're doing. They are smart. They have done their homework. They have read up on it. Of course, we all sometimes like misuse vocabulary or whatever, but they know exactly what they want to do with the studio. And where they don't know, they ask really good questions. And I think that's the same thing. Like all business conversations have to be like an equal, honest conversation. And the reason why this is that it's so much more difficult to get funding as a marginalized founder. So you really have to do your homework. While at Carlo Knights, like people could pitch us whatever. It's like, oh yeah, but they are cool people. Putting them a little bit under the bus, but I think they would agree still, the team. Like they're cool people, they will definitely make something great, and often it was dudes, right? So I just want to change the narrative that we are always talking about educating people who are marginalized in the industry. I'm so often asked to mentor for free, my time free, their time free, no money involved, no nothing real. And it's people who have run companies for 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years. They know what they're doing, and we always talk about educating them, when actually it's just about making money accessible to them. And I think that's very important to keep in mind in this conversation. Also for all of you pitching who are maybe marginalized in some way, like don't put your light down. Like you probably know what you're doing. And the only reason why you sometimes feel dumb is because there's some old wild dude that's going to be intimidated by you and what you know. And he's going to try to diminish you and belittle you. And that's the only reason why we sometimes feel naive in this industry. Like I've done this work with investment now for soon 6 years. And still people try to educate me about what I do and how project financing works, which is what I've been specializing in. And I'm very educated, I think. I'm very educated on these things. So I just want to make that absolutely clear, that you probably know all of it already. You're probably good to go, and you just send your pitch and just be transparent and honest and welcoming in the conversations. And if people are assholes to you, don't take their money. It's going to be horrible for your mental health.
Yeah, that's very true. Bibi, what's one thing every early stage founder should bring to the table beyond the game idea itself? We just assume the game idea is great, but what's one thing they should bring more to the table?
Well, I mean, when we do early stage equity investments, we look at two things, and that is the team and the business potential. So if it's not the game, I would say the team is super important.
Would you two agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Like if the game is potential, but it's not really there, but it's a really good team, then they can fix it.
Yeah. Have you ever said no to a good game, and why?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe you start with a why.
There's so many things that goes into being, especially when we talk about project financing, like publishers and project funds like Wings works a little bit similar. So it's also about like bandwidth, the portfolio and pipelines and yada yada. So sometimes it's just like, this is great, but we cannot fit another 2026 game into our schedule. So that's just what it is, right? And then there is also, depending on how the review process works. So, for example, at Kowloon, we got pitched Power Wash Simulator, and there's not a publisher out there that was not pitched Power Wash Simulator, and we all talked about it. Like there was always like one or two on the team really routing for that game, and then there was the rest on the team was like, I don't know, I don't really see the business potential, and we have all regretted that, I think. So, of course, you say no to really, really good games for so many reasons. And that's also why funding is very tricky. That when you're pitching, you don't always know exactly what the no's come from. Like they can say your budget is too high, and then you think you just need to eat cup noodles, but actually it's just because they don't believe in the market potential. And then we need to have a conversation about how big the market potential is for what you're creating. So, yeah.
And you were also nodding, Bibi.
Yeah. So just for clarity, so PlayCap invest in anything within games. We also invest in game tech. So I think the what came to mind first was really interesting product that they were making, and really good pitch deck and everything. And I had a first meeting with one of the founders, and his English was so bad that we couldn't really communicate, and I saw that will be a problem. But he was quite eager to actually get a deal from PlayCap, and I mean I was kind of interested in the product. So I had a second meeting with his co-founder who joined the call, and this guy was sitting and eating in the talk and turning on and off his camera, and I don't know if it was because I was a woman or what the reason was, but it was very disrespectful, and I felt like I'm so sorry because that happened, because the first founder was really nice, even if his English was really bad. But I couldn't invest in someone I can't communicate with, because this is a long-term relationship. So it's important.
How about you, Marina?
So, for one of the clients that I work for recently, they had a really beautiful game, but then when we met the team, it was only one single woman working in the team, and they claimed to be diverse. So that was like a bit of a red flag for us. Like, okay, you cannot claim to be diverse when there is one single person that is not a white man working for this team. So that felt already a bit dodgy. And then also, and this is very sad for me to say because I love narrative games, is because the game was a narrative game, and like we were not so sure if it was a really small game as well, and the budget matching was not there. It was slightly too high for what we wanted to do. So although the game was very beautiful, there was the red flag from the diversity part of the team, and then also there was a narrative game, and we were at the moment a bit scared on investing in purely narrative games. And I say I'm sad because I want to push narrative games because I love them so much. But, for agreements, it was not the perfect fit for what we wanted. And then there was another case of another client that they had a really good team put together. They have delivered before already like a couple of titles, but suddenly like they pitched one thing to us, and then suddenly they pitched something else, and that felt a bit like insecure for the board that we were evaluating this case. And after talking to them, like, why did you make these changes and so on, because it was something completely different from what we spoke at the beginning, we decided not to go for it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing these examples. So also for you, Marina, what kind of projects make you think, oh yes, this is the future we need more of?
So I see the future of games being diverse. Like, for example, I was recently talking to another friend who's also an investor in the games industry. And like we were discussing about that we would like to see more double A games that are made by women and people of color, LGBT people, and so on and so on. That's maybe part of what I would love to see more in the future. Not women making only like just cozy games, but also assume that women and people that are not men can also deliver amazing double and triple A games. I would love to see more of that. And then, of course, as I said earlier, I'm always pushing for more narrative games. I hope that it always creates so much uncertainty for the people with the money, and I can see why. But at the same time, I hope that sometime we find a way to push narrative games. Yeah.
What's your take on that one, Bibi? What kind of projects make you think, oh yeah, that's the future I would wish to see more, I would love to invest in?
Oh yeah, that's what I want to invest in myself. I mean, I'm very. I think it's so many things that excites me. To be honest, it's a really hard question. I'm very wide in that sense. Yeah.
Okay, so then, or did you? Yeah,
I can make. I think people, because our focus on diversity, people think that we invest in cozy and narrative games because that's what women are forced to make because they can get public funding, and then you need to make a narrative product, and it's a little bit, that's another ecosystem issue. But like right now we have a Souls-like demo coming out this week, and when it comes to genre, like everything excites me if I can see it can make money. Mm-hmm. And it does. Sometimes I can be a game on Steam, like for example for Prison of Husks that we are working with, where we're actually doing more of like a publishing situation with it. When we signed that, it was like only a few hundred wish list, but I've seen streamers picked it up from an itch.io page, and there was like one streamer with 1 million views. I was like, okay, let's figure out how to capitalize that. Now 2 months later, we had 30,000 wish lists, and we are lined up for like three big showcases and 2 minor showcases here over the weekend for the demo release. I think with the data we have right now, that can maybe turn around, let's see, you can ask me next week, 100,000 wish list. Like, that's excite me. It doesn't have to. Of course, I'm excited about genres I love, and I happen to love Souls-likes, but I can get equally excited for whatever kind of product. For me, it's figuring out like how are we going to make money together on this. And sometimes market validation can come from different places than Steam as well. So like I think that's what most people doing project financing like me, like that's what they go for. And of course we spend hours and hours on looking and game discovery, pro data and Steam and talking and gossiping and like how do we find the next Palazzo? But reality is you don't really. So yeah. Maybe it answers the question.
Yes, thank you. It's not only about the pitch itself, but also the environment we're entering. So how can we make pitch rooms more inclusive? Not just who's in them, but how they're run. You were nodding, Astrid.
Yeah, like we all heard about like blind hiring and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think it works in this ecosystem. The fact is actually you can get a game signed without a pitch deck.
Uh-huh.
So not talking equity. I think that's a bit different. But from publishing and project financing, if you have a really, really good demo somewhere, let's say on itch.io, and it has 100,000 downloads or plays, and you know sort of what the game is, and you have a one page, like I'm pretty sure somebody would be up for signing that. Like I would be up for signing that. And I think it's good to have a good pitch deck and show that you know what you're doing and it's a part of the conversation. But reality is also that if you have something really good that starts to blow up somewhere, people are going to reach out to you. That's first of all. So always remember to focus on making that good product and get it out there to get the market validation. then we can always figure out the details. Sometimes people pitch me and there's like lots of like, they don't even have a budget and whatever. And it's like, what is the budget? I don't know. I need to work for a year. Okay, let's sit down and figure it out. Like that we can figure out if we are really excited about your game. I think that's important to keep in mind. Also, when you're doing this like pitching round and doing all the funding stuff, then you're probably gonna see a spreadsheet of Excel with all the publishers, and then it feels so nice to just go and like CC all of those, BCC. Sometimes you CC them, and then we all see the email, and then you send out an email to everyone. And it's good. You should always be pitching and you should be showing your things. But the things is that then you know when you get the game that everybody also gets the game and it's less exciting. Focus on making that really, really good demo and get the market validation. That's your primary focus. You can download a pitch template and you can fill out information and all of that, and that's going to be great, and you should definitely do that. But that's where your priority should lie. And then seek out. You don't have to go to like all the DTC and big expensive things. Go to small things. Show things over there. And if there's something good, then you have some sort of market validation. Somebody would hopefully pick it up. I'm not sure it really answered the questions, but I think it was important context, maybe.
Yes, a very important context. But also, yeah, Marina, you wanted to say something to
I just wanted to lead up a bit on what Astrid just said about that you don't need to go to expensive events. I think also like a lot of really good games are found through the internet, and that's something that me as a developer that comes from Spain, that initially I didn't have any money to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. I think it's very important to also think about, and what Astrid just said about making something. Like me, I used to be very scared of sitting down and making a thing, but the thing is that it's much easier to write a lot of words about what you want to make instead of making the thing, and like at the beginning I used to get also very grumpy, like, oh, but how am I gonna make a prototype, it's so hard and so on. But the thing is that you need to find a way of validating all of these cool ideas and see, as Astrid said, if it keeps exciting you or not, because then when I started making the thing I was like, oh, actually, this is not what I want to make. But like in terms of more diversity and so on, I think keeping in mind that the internet exists is really important, because, for example, with TikTok and so on, there is a lot of ways of finding cool games through platforms like TikTok, Blue Sky, whatever, no? You don't need to go to the other side of the world for that. And I think VCs and investors and so on also look for these kind of games in these same platforms. So yeah, which is more encouraging if you don't have money.
Yeah, Bibi.
Yeah, I mean, I think the red thread here is traction and market validation, which is super important. The same for us as in investors in equity. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, it's stronger if you actually can show that you already have like an organic traction to what you're making, even if you say like pre-seed is before you actually put the product out, but pre-seed is basically seed right now. You kind of want to, in most cases, it's a better selling point if you can show traction. And I mean, I know there are some developers who just are really good at making trailers and put them out and see if it gets traction before they actually start making the full game. So I mean, it's marketing is definitely one of the strongest skills to have in the team.
And I found it really cool that you said that, Marina, because for me, from a consumer perspective, I really love to discover small indie games on social media. That's what I'm relating to. When I'm looking for a new game, I'm just scrolling to the content creators I really love who present small games or even solo devs. I find that on social media. That's a thing. Like, actually, Bibi, how do you deal with promising projects that lack of business structure? Can passion compensate for planning?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, passion is super, super important. I think you're gonna have to build up with a business case around it. But it's definitely a good introduction point to see someone that is super passionate about it and really understands the space that they want to work in. Yeah.
I also want to push that question to you guys. How do you feel about that? If there's a lack of business structure?
It depends. Like, passion needs to be there, because otherwise you're gonna burn out. You're probably gonna burn out no matter what, and then we're gonna pick you back up. But you need to have passion, and then there is stubborn passion and curious passion. And if I'm looking for a founder, I would take the curious passion, because that's the person that's going to keep asking questions and reading all the newsletters and sometimes going in the wrong direction. But it's like constantly learning, iterating, admit failure, on to the next thing, analyzing their failures. That's like the curious passion. And then if you have the stubborn passion, that's a developer that's very passionate about the project and they've been working on it for 10 years. And the world is so ridiculous that they don't see that this is the next big thing, just to put them in like boxes a little bit. And it's good to be stubborn in the way that like you're gonna fight hard for your thing. But sometimes if you've been pitching a thing for 2 years, it's maybe not. If you have a lot of passion and you're curious and there's like huge gap of like business structure or market understanding and knowledge, like I can work with that. Like, okay, let's collaborate, let's have fun, let's figure this out. I'm going to be educated about your game and what you're building. You probably know a lot about your audience since this is what you're building, and then I can teach you the rest. I'm all good for that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the time when you get a co-founder. So it's ideal to be to start a company, two people. One is the creative force, and one is the business person.
Would you agree to that, Marina?
I was gonna say that I second that 100%. Like recently, I saw a project that it looks so beautiful. It was a musical game, amazing. But like first of all, they were like Astrid said, like looking for funding to finish. I mean, they had a demo that looked really nice. It was so much fun. It looked beautiful. But they were looking for funding for like 2 years, and they couldn't find anything. Like first of all, because people are scared of investing in musical games, and secondly, the founder was really stubborn on that the business structure was basically chaos, and he was not willing to kind of dig more into the target audience that they wanted for the game, to change a couple of features and so on and so on. So that made it really hard to, you know, like, even if it was very passionate and cool, to work with them, essentially. Yeah.
You, especially Marina, you wore so many creative hats. How do you personally switch between the art brain and the business brain?
I think that definitely what Bibi mentioned earlier as well about the marketing point, like before even coming to the games industry, I worked for 2 years in marketing in the fashion industry for Inditex and BMW in cars. And I think that definitely was a really good learning for me, because like marketing, like of course, like the fashion industry or the cars industry is not the same as the games industry, but I think the basics are similar. And how to sell your game, how to sell yourself, it's all there. It's the same thing. So I think also because I'm hyperactive and I'm very passionate about everything that I do. So like, you know, like when I make my own games and I believe in them, I'm very passionate. And then suddenly I get enthusiasm from the business side and helping people and figuring out for myself as well. And then I also get excited. So I think it's a bit of ADHD. I don't know.
I think also for early founders, the long-term strategy could be a topic that's a bit scary to them because they don't know how to plan that. So this question is for you, Bibi. What role does long-term strategy play in whenever you decide to fund a game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the long term is also very unclear for everybody. I mean, I met with the studio last week. We're showing they really done their job of putting like a long term strategy. They were going to make a game now, and then it was going to become a game the year after, and then a sequel and everything. And they like how long time it would take to make things, and then they were in 2029. I'm like, do we even know how game development will look in 2029? We don't know that yet. So I mean, it's a lot of changes happening with AI and how fast we can produce things, and what the market looks like. What is there some new kind of Fortnite, Roblox platform? We don't know anything about the future. So it's hard. So it's really good to kind of rely on the team, and that you feel this is a team that are open to developing themselves as well. I have a hard time in investing in teams that are like, yeah, we've been in the industry for 100 years, and we've been doing, because they tend to not always be as fast as newer developers that have learned the new tools and everything. So I like the newer developers coming out, because they're as fast or even faster, I would say, and then sticking to like doing what you've done for 30 years, you know. So
I see you agreeing very much, Astrid.
Like you often get these, not at Wings so much because of patriarchy, but we often get these like AAA, ex-AAA, and now they are like 5 or 10, and then they're gonna make a studio, and it's gonna look exactly like any other AAA thing, and sometimes it can be exciting. And we definitely had some projects in Kowloon Nights like that, and they turned out very exciting. But I think like maybe we also just have a passion for early teams. That can also be. But like these people, maybe they worked a little bit in some freelance or some different studios, and then it's just like, I'm gonna make this company and I'm gonna do this thing, and let's game jam it out, and fast prototyping and head over heels. And sometimes you maybe work a little bit too many hours and be careful, but also it's really amazing to see how much you can then achieve in a week. Like that's really fun to work with.
I also want to have some time for the audience to ask you questions. So that's why I saved 10 minutes for you guys. But I still have one closing question for every one of you. So just to break that down, and I know Bibi already said that, but still, what's your version of a red flag in a pitch, and what's a green one? Maybe I start with Marina here.
I mean, I'm gonna think. It's so hard because there can be so many things, but I think a huge red flag is when I see that someone didn't allocate any money for marketing, which happens. It happens a lot, because when you are making your pitch deck, you think so much about so many things. Also, as a game developer, that sometimes marketing is not the first thing in your mind, but it's actually game changing. What you can do with marketing budget, even if like some other parts are weaker. Green flag. Green flag, I would say, I don't know. I think for me personally, a green flag is when I see the elevator pitch very clear, and when I can visualize the project very well from the pitch that I have. So like, if I can already imagine the game from what I'm reading, and then I don't need further explanation from the game dev, I think for me that's a really good sign that what they are putting together, they know what they're doing, and there is clarity in this. I think that would be for me.
Yeah. What's a red flag for you, Astrid, and a green one?
Red flag is definitely market research, where you put in limbo and another like, Balatro, Slay the Spire. Like you put in something that is like Among Us, an extreme success, And not even right now, but like 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years ago, it's not market research. It's like, this is the genre I'm working in. Okay, all good. This is the genre you are working in. I'm pretty sure that you're not gonna make Limbo or Among Us. But like, what is the market research of what is there right now on the market that is similar, and how is this space moving? Talk about Souls, like, okay, right now I'm working with that. Then I'm doing a lot of research on all types of Souls like there is in Steam. And then I get an understanding. And it's not only about how much money these games made, because if you have something unique that the audience want, it doesn't matter that no one made any money really, because then you are in really good. But it's also figuring out like what kind of price point can I ask for something I can create here. And even very experienced developers make these mistakes. Like, this is my number one. See, we can work with it. Like, green flag is like a good demo. And sometimes it's 2 minutes. Like, I signed a game last year. I've been with us for a year. Now there is finally 1.5 hour of gameplay. It's all still gray blocks, but it's like boxes, but it's so fun. But when I signed the game, they had 2 minutes of something really, really fun and weird. And I was like, yeah, okay, I don't know what this is going to be, but this, like, I'm in for the ride, like, let's figure it out. So it doesn't have to be like a huge vertical slice, but I'm like, okay, if I can get these 2 minutes for another 6 hours, I'm completely sold and I'm in. So that's my green flag. And I always play game first, and then I look at the pitch deck and like what you have to say about it, basically. Yeah.
Interesting. How about you? What's your red one and your green one?
I think both Marina and Astrid had very good examples. I can have an orange flag, maybe.
Oh, yeah, why not? Let's mix them.
My own color. I think an orange flag is when you have a team that's been working on a type of game a lot in a certain space, and then all of a sudden pivot and start doing a completely other game. Where you might do it because you think that will sell more, or something which is are you passionate enough about this new kind of game that you're going to make? That's maybe in a pitch something that I would question a little bit.
Mm-hmm. All right. As I said, I want to open up the stage and ask you guys, do you have any questions for our panelists? We have 3 investors here. That's your chance to pitch, maybe. Someone
No, please
wants
don't.
to. Oh, yeah, we have one question.
Marina, I'm super curious because you said you started investing with like 100 euros. I'm so curious what you invested in.
So like basically because I really didn't know anything at all about like investments and so on and so on. I started educating myself on what actually investment was. So I didn't want, like I thought in my head when I didn't know about it that investment, it can be very risky, right? But it can also be safe. If you invest in things that are safe. So for example, for me, what I invest at the moment is I invest in global stocks. I invest in global stock that is called FTSE, that is basically like a diversified portfolio of companies in the US primarily that are like the top of the market in the US, I don't know, like Apple and so on and so on. That's how I started investing 100 euros in to see how it works, because these kind of portfolios tend to go up with the years in the market. Like the more that you hold your stock there, the more it keeps growing. And, because the market fluctuates, sometimes it can go really down and suddenly you lost like 10 euros. Imagine like when you invest quantities like 100 euros, right? But then if you hold your money there, like maybe suddenly the next week you actually earn 20 euros. So I would say that for starting, when you don't know anything, like I did first of all, a course on investments before I started investing myself to already, get a vision on what investment was. Then I also invested myself in NVIDIA. And I also invested in like a bond from Germany. That's also bonds are also other type of investments that are safe that you can do. And then I have a personal rule that it's that I don't invest in things that are not aligned with my ethical values. So, for example, I would never invest in cryptocurrency, in things that are involved with military. Like, actually, for instance, the last week I was reading that there is this now kind of investment whisper in the investments world with like a company that it's doing AI, but then it turns out that the company was doing AI for defense. I would never invest in in words and stuff like that, even though it's saying that when you invest in the top companies of the US, you are intrinsically already investing in bullshit because they all do this. So you cannot escape, but it's a bit of less bullshit that when I say I'm actively investing in this company that's killing people without a shame. So just saying that it's hard, but that was my first investment actually.
Somebody else? No. All right. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you for the panel. As an investor, what is your ideal relationship with the team you're working with? And maybe you're all from different angles there.
I can start. Sometimes when you enter into like a negotiation process, so there's a cool game, it seems like things seem to align, and you make an offer, and then people misunderstand the situation and think that business conversations are a game. So, and I can feel when somebody is not transparent. Like, my lawyer is on vacation for the next month. Like, that's not a thing. So just be like, hey, thank you so much for the offer. Like, we are right now evaluating a few other offers from publishers. When we have all the details, we're going to take a decision, and I'm going to follow up with more questions if we have that. Like, that's how you are. You don't need to mention who else is. Like, that's actually pretty annoying when people say like, oh, I'm also getting an offer from Raw Fury. And it's like, oh, Johan, why are you like, oh, then comes these awkward conversations. Don't do that. But it's very normal to just be like, hey, we are right now figuring out what's the best path forward for me. And I only want to work with developers where they feel like this is the best decision I can take for my studio, that we are collaborating. So I think it's very important that you, in any type of business, it needs to be transparent. It needs to be without any games. It needs to be okay to admit when you like, where there's things where you're like, I'm gonna need more help specifically in this area. Is that something you can provide? I get that a lot, of course, because we're not a publisher. So it should be like an honest, transparent conversation and no games around it. And if you feel, if let's say somebody is giving you an offer, we want to invest however in you, and you feel that there's like games, you feel that like they're pressuring you, like this is the best deal on the market, you should definitely take this. Like, that's a red flag. It's not going to be a fun or good collaboration. And then you can take the money, but money is one thing. Another thing is like, how are we going to work together with these people? And I think that's when it starts to become really interesting, when you are both like really enjoying the working relationship and you start to grow things together. So yeah.
How would an ideal relationship look for you?
I mean, I can only second what Astrid is saying. I think because I think there's always like a complication in the relationship between an investor and a studio, is that studios often feel like they can't bring up their problems. Like, it would be unnormal for a company or a new startup to have problems. So they tend, like a lot of them tend to just show like everything is going really well, we are on schedule, and
we're not going to release next week.
Exactly. So I think it is like, really feel like, yes, if somebody invested in you, they are aware that you can have problems, and if you don't tell what that is, you're going to be in even more trouble, because you can feel a distrust. You start feeling like, what why aren't you transparent? And that can be a very complicated situation. So really work on being transparent, even if it's your investor. Treat them like a part of your team.
Yeah.
I would say.
Do you want to add something, Marina?
I think for me, just for saying something different, for me, it's very important to respect the creative vision of the project, unless something very crazy is going on. But I trust every person I work with, unless they show me otherwise. So, like, sometimes it also happens with when I've worked with teams that are especially women-founded, that a lot of people come to kind of make them change the project and do that and so on. And I think it's also part of maybe this distrust of, that women cannot do the work. So like for me, the first thing I always say to the people I work with for business and so on is that I'm always going to trust their creative vision and I'm going to push for that unless, like they do like some a sudden change that they cannot explain to me that why is this happening. But yeah, and encourage them to follow like their gut in there. Yeah.
And that can be really hard as well, I must say. I mean, I want to say, like, follow your creative vision, but I had a situation last week where we were very, very far in development and creating an IP where the developers got really tired of their characters and just changed them. Which is like, no, we can't do that now. Like 6 months before release, we can't change the characters. That's not a possibility. So, I mean, I think both is of course important that they feel like they're free, but always talk to your publisher or your investor if you're going to do drastic changes like that, and also always find time for QA because I think it's a lot of creative games that unfortunately get released with mixed reviews because they didn't do QA enough. So super important to get external help with testing your game and doing QA of it. Yeah.
All right. If we don't have any questions, oh no, you're a volunteer. Okay, right. All right, thank you. If we don't have any questions, then yeah, I would say thank you to you guys. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for your honesty, for your energy. This is your applause.